The Lindbergh Kidnapping, 1932. Part 1. The most famous family in America. In the late 1920s, there was one man whose name was known across the entire world. His name was Charles Lindbergh. In 1927, he achieved something many believed was impossible: flying alone across the vast Atlantic Ocean from New York to Paris without stopping. The journey lasted more than 33 hours. And when he landed safely, America celebrated. Newspapers called him a hero. Crowds filled the streets. Children admired him. And millions of people looked up to him as a symbol of courage and determination. Charles Lindbergh became one of the most famous men in the world. But fame was only part of his story. In 1929, he married Anne Morrow, an intelligent writer and talented aviator. Together, they became America's most admired couple. Then, in 1930, their first child was born, a baby boy named Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr. The arrival of their son brought great happiness. Newspapers wrote about the child. Photographers wanted pictures. People across America followed the family's life with interest. But fame also brought problems. The Lindbergh family wanted peace, privacy, a quiet life away from crowds and reporters. So they moved to a beautiful home in the countryside of New Jersey, far from the busy cities, surrounded by trees, rolling hills, and silence. It seemed like the perfect place to raise a family. Days were peaceful. The baby played happily. Anne cared for her son. Charles spent time with his family. Everything appeared calm. Everything seemed safe. No one could imagine that this quiet home would soon become the center of one of the greatest mysteries in American history. A mystery that would shock the entire nation and change American law forever. Because on a cold night in March 1932, something terrible happened. Something that would make headlines around the world and leave questions that still remain today.
Part 2. The night the baby disappeared. It was March 1st, 1932. A cold, rainy evening settled over the quiet countryside of New Jersey. The Lindbergh family had returned home after spending time away. Inside the house, everything seemed peaceful. Charles Lindbergh sat downstairs, reviewing paperwork beside the fireplace. His wife Anne was upstairs, checking on their 20-month-old son. Little Charles Jr. had been feeling slightly unwell. So instead of eating dinner with the family, he had been put to bed early. At around 8 p.m., His nurse, Betty Gao, looked into the nursery one last time. The little boy was sleeping peacefully. She quietly closed the door. Nothing seemed unusual. Outside, a light rain continued to fall. The wind gently moved through the trees. The countryside was silent. Hours passed. The house remained calm. Then, around 10 p.m., Betty Gao returned to the nursery. She opened the door, walked toward the crib, and suddenly, she froze. The crib was empty. For a brief moment, she thought someone had moved the child. She searched the room. She called his name. Nothing. Panic spread instantly. She rushed downstairs. "Colonel Lindbergh, the baby is gone." Charles Lindbergh ran upstairs. He searched every corner of the nursery. Then, he noticed something strange. The window was open. Cold air drifted into the room. Mud stained the windowsill. Outside, just below the window, lay a homemade wooden ladder, broken into several pieces. Someone had climbed into the nursery, taken the child, and escaped into the darkness. Then, Charles noticed something else. A white envelope, resting on the windowsill. Inside was a handwritten ransom note. The kidnapper demanded $50,000. The letter warned the family not to contact the police, or the child would be harmed. But Charles Lindbergh knew there was no time to lose. Within minutes, police officers arrived at the estate. The quiet country home was suddenly filled with investigators. Flashlights swept across the muddy ground. Footprints were examined. The broken ladder was carefully collected as evidence. Reporters soon arrived. Then photographers. Before sunrise, the shocking news had spread across America. The nation's most famous baby had disappeared. No witnesses, no suspects, only a broken ladder, an open window, and a ransom note. America had just become part of one of the greatest criminal investigations in its history.
Part 3. The largest manhunt in America. By sunrise, the shocking news had spread across the nation. Newspapers printed extra editions. Radio stations interrupted their regular programs. Every headline carried the same story. Lindbergh baby kidnapped. America was in disbelief. How could someone kidnap the child of the nation's greatest hero? Within hours, hundreds of police officers arrived at the Lindbergh estate. Detectives searched every inch of the property. The woods, the fields, nearby roads. Every possible clue was carefully examined. The broken wooden ladder was taken as the most important piece of evidence. Experts believed the kidnapper had built it by hand. Every nail, every piece of wood, every fingerprint could reveal the truth. Bloodhounds were brought to the estate. The dogs followed the scent, only to lose it near the roadside. Investigators believed the kidnapper had escaped by car. Soon, thousands of volunteers joined the search. Neighbors, hunters, firefighters, even ordinary citizens. Everyone wanted to help. Airplanes flew over forests. Boats searched nearby rivers. No place was ignored. Meanwhile, the Lindbergh family waited. Every telephone call.
Part 4. The secret meeting begins. Days passed. The ransom note had changed everything. The Lindbergh family was desperate. They wanted only one thing: their son back home. But the kidnapper refused to meet the police. Instead, he demanded a private negotiator. That man was Dr. John F. Condon, a respected school principal from the Bronx. Using the nickname Jafsie, Condon agreed to help. Soon, another ransom note arrived. It contained detailed instructions. The meeting would take place at night, inside a lonely cemetery. On a cold evening, Dr. Condon walked carefully between old gravestones. The air was silent. A light wind moved through the trees. Then, out of the darkness, a mysterious man appeared. He wore a dark overcoat, a fedora hat, his face hidden by the shadows. He called himself John. No one knew if it was his real name or just another lie.
The stranger demanded the full ransom. In exchange, he promised the child would be returned safely. Dr. Condon handed over the money. The stranger counted it, then quietly disappeared into the darkness. Before leaving, he gave Condon a small note. It claimed the Lindbergh baby was alive and waiting on a small boat near the coast. Hope returned. Charles Lindbergh immediately organized a search. Boats searched the shoreline, the nearby waters, every possible location. Hour after hour, they searched. But there was nothing. No boat, no child, no sign of little Charles Jr. The promise had been a lie. The kidnapper had taken the money and vanished. America was once again left waiting for answers, waiting for hope. But the darkest chapter of this story was still ahead.
Part 5. A heartbreaking discovery. Days passed, then weeks. The Lindbergh family waited, hoping every telephone call would bring good news, but none ever came. Search teams continued working day and night. Police officers searched forests, fields, roads, and abandoned buildings. Divers searched rivers. Volunteers combed the countryside. Yet, there was no sign of little Charles Jr. The entire nation prayed. Churches held special services. Parents hugged their own children a little tighter. Newspapers published updates every single day. America refused to give up hope. Then, on the afternoon of May 12, 1932, everything changed. A truck driver named William Allen stopped along a quiet country road. The road passed through a lonely wooded area, only a few miles from the Lindbergh estate. As he walked into the trees, he noticed something unusual. At first, he thought it was nothing, but as he moved closer, his heart sank.
Lying among the fallen leaves was the tiny body of a small child. Police arrived within minutes. The area was immediately sealed. Investigators examined every detail. Soon, the heartbreaking truth became clear. The child was Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr. America's missing baby had been found. The nation fell silent. Radio stations interrupted their broadcasts. Newspapers printed special editions. People stood in complete disbelief. Charles Lindbergh was asked to identify his own son. It became one of the most heartbreaking moments in American history. Doctors believed the child had died not long after the kidnapping. The ransom money had bought nothing but false hope. For Charles and Anne Lindbergh, life would never be the same again. The entire country mourned with them. But one question still remained. Who committed such a terrible crime, and where had the kidnapper gone? Investigators now had only one mission: find the person responsible, no matter how long it took, because somewhere, someone was still walking free.
Part 6. Following the money. The hunt for the kidnapper. Months passed. But investigators refused to give up. The nation wanted justice. The Lindbergh family wanted answers. And the police believed the kidnapper had made one mistake: the ransom money. Before handing over the payment, investigators had secretly recorded the serial numbers of every gold certificate. If the kidnapper ever spent the money, someone would eventually notice. Banks, stores, gas stations across America were quietly warned. If anyone received one of those bills, they were instructed to report it immediately. For more than 2 years, almost nothing happened. The investigation slowed. Many people feared the case would never be solved. Then, in September 1934, everything changed. At a small gas station in New York, a customer paid for gasoline using a $10 gold certificate. The station attendant found the bill unusual. Gold certificates were becoming rare. Remembering the police warning, he quickly wrote down the license plate number of the customer's car. That small decision changed history. Police traced the vehicle to a German immigrant carpenter living in the Bronx. His name was Bruno Richard Hauptmann. Detectives quietly watched him for several days. Then, they searched his home. What they found was astonishing. Hidden inside the garage, investigators discovered more than $14,000 from the Lindbergh ransom money. The serial numbers matched perfectly. Officers searched further. They found notebooks, handwriting samples, woodworking tools. Every new discovery raised more questions. Hauptmann denied everything. He claimed the money belonged to a friend who had died years earlier. He insisted he knew nothing about the kidnapping. But investigators were no longer convinced. On September 19, 1934, Bruno Richard Hauptmann was placed under arrest. The news spread across America. Within hours, newspapers declared the Lindbergh kidnapper captured. For many people, the mystery was finally over. But others still had doubts. Had police truly found the right man? Or was there a much bigger story still waiting to be uncovered? Only one place could answer that question: the courtroom. And soon, the entire world would be watching.
Part 7. The trial of the century begins. By early 1935, the entire world was watching. Bruno Richard Hauptmann had been charged with the kidnapping and murder of Charles Lindbergh Jr. The courtroom in Flemington, New Jersey, quickly became the center of international attention. Every morning, thousands of people gathered outside. Reporters arrived from across America and around the world. Newspapers called it the trial of the century. Inside the courtroom, every seat was filled. Outside, loudspeakers were installed so crowds could hear the proceedings. For weeks, the prosecution presented its case. They showed the ransom money found inside Hauptmann's garage. Experts testified that the handwriting on the ransom notes closely matched Hauptmann's writing. Wood experts examined the homemade ladder. They claimed one piece of wood had come from the attic of Hauptmann's stone house. Fingerprint experts, handwriting specialists, carpenters, police officers, one after another, they took the witness stand. Then, Charles Lindbergh himself entered the courtroom. The room fell completely silent. He testified about the night his son disappeared, about the ransom letters, and about the mysterious voice he had heard during the secret cemetery meeting. It became one of the most emotional moments of the entire trial.
The defense fought back. Hauptmann insisted he was innocent. He admitted the ransom money had been found inside his garage, but claimed it belonged to a former business partner who had died years earlier. He denied writing the ransom notes. He denied building the homemade ladder. And he denied kidnapping the Lindbergh baby. His lawyers argued that the case was based mostly on circumstantial evidence, not undeniable proof. For 6 long weeks, the trial continued. Every witness, every document, every piece of evidence was carefully examined. Finally, the jury left the courtroom to decide Hauptmann's fate. The entire nation waited. Radio stations paused their programs. Newspapers prepared special editions. Hours later, the jury returned. The courtroom fell completely silent. The foreman stood and spoke 2 words: guilty as charged. Bruno Richard Hauptmann was sentenced to death. For many Americans, justice had finally been served. But for others, the questions had only just begun. Was Hauptmann truly guilty? Or had history condemned the wrong man? The debate would continue for generations.
Part 8. Was Bruno Hauptmann really guilty? On April 3, 1936, Bruno Richard Hauptmann walked toward the electric chair. Until his very last moment, he repeated the same words: "I am innocent." Minutes later, his life came to an end. For the American government, the case was officially closed. Justice had been served. But not everyone agreed. Almost immediately, questions began to appear. Some investigators believed one man could never have planned such a complicated kidnapping alone. Others pointed to conflicting witness statements. Some evidence had disappeared. Some testimony changed over time. Historians later discovered that several details were still being debated decades later. Was the handwriting analysis really accurate? Did the ladder actually come from Hauptmann's attic?
Or had investigators made mistakes while trying to solve America's biggest crime? Many researchers still believe Hauptmann was guilty, but others argue that he may have been only part of a larger group, or perhaps not guilty at all. The mystery refused to disappear.
Even today, more than 90 years later, books continue to be written, documentaries continue to be made, historians continue to debate the evidence. The Lindbergh kidnapping changed America forever. Public outrage over the crime led Congress to pass a new federal law known as the Lindbergh Law. From that day forward, kidnapping someone across state lines became a federal crime, giving the FBI greater authority to investigate similar crimes. The tragedy not only changed one family, it changed the American justice system itself. Today, the Lindbergh home still stands. The story still fascinates millions, not only because of the heartbreaking loss of an innocent child, but because the mystery has never completely disappeared. Perhaps we will never know every truth about what happened on that cold night in March 1932. Some secrets remain buried in history, waiting for someone to uncover them. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of America's most unforgettable mysteries. If you enjoyed this documentary, please support the channel by liking the video, subscribing, and sharing it with others who love history. Until next time, stay curious, and remember, history never truly sleeps.